Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining me today, this evening, for our live webinar, Hiring Top Gun Talent, broadcast all the way from Connect Towers. Please introduce yourselves in the comments as we go along. Feel free to kind of join in on the conversation. I'll be checking on my screen here right in front of me as we go along, and I'll try to interact as much as I possibly can. But if you do have any questions, then please do ask. If I can't answer any questions immediately, then the Connect production team are here on standby to field them, which we can perhaps kind of enjoy at the end of the session or something like that. So whether you're a recruiter, a recruitment manager, recruitment leader, or business owner, this evening I'm going to share with you some ideas, some thoughts, and hopefully solutions to what I believe to be the #1 challenge facing recruitment businesses today: attracting, finding, training, motivating, and retaining great recruiters. Now, I know that for some of you joining us this evening, it's not going to be news to you. It's certainly not news to me. Believe me, I've had some real challenges over the years and made some really awful mistakes, but that's what it's all about, right? It's all about, we all make mistakes. We learn, we grow, we continue to evolve and become kind of better than we were the day before. So today, what I want to do is help you by tackling not all of it, but hopefully some of the key issues we all kind of face. So how about a quick summary of what we're going to kind of run through over the next 20 to 30 minutes, and then we just crack on. So I'm going to share with you some challenges and mistakes I've made, why it's so difficult to hire great recruiters, what we should look for when we're hiring recruiters, and what do the best recruiters do better, why are they so good, and what are we doing wrong when we're kind of trying to hire these guys, and finally, what strategies we should be using. Please remember, you need to stay with us right till the end. I'm going to give you some absolutely kind of top draw questions to ask recruiters before you commit to hiring them, to stay with us right till the end. So you're going to need the questions, so stay with us right till the end. We're then going to finish off with a bit of a Q&A as well session. So if you have any questions, like I said, feel free to comment. But also, I'm more than happy to field any questions right at the end. A bit about me, very, very quickly. For those of you who don't know me, I've been in the recruitment industry for about 15 years, best part of 15 years now. Starting out as a consultant in the early noughties, I've recruited at kind of all levels within accounting and finance, construction and property, IT and telecoms. I've run successful perm and temp desks and temp teams, both kind of in agency and kind of management in-house levels as well. And that gave me a really good platform to understand and, I guess, specialise in the recruitment sector, which is what I do now. I invest my time in helping other recruiters fulfil their ambitions, in specifically helping them start their own recruitment business. So swiftly moving on, let's look at some challenges and mistakes. Now, recruitment methods have seen some real great improvements over the last few years, and the best recruiters, I find, are now blending their experience with the latest technology to source and make some really good placements. There's still one area where I believe recruitment practice is lagging behind, and that's hiring new recruiters. And if I had a good think about what the biggest challenges that I've had over the years, and also probably many of the recruiters that I know, I would say that the most ironic thing is that we struggle to get it right when it comes to hiring ourselves and recruiting for ourselves. So let me just pause there for a second and let me put this over to you guys. How true is that to you? Have you ever kind of struggled finding the right recruiters for your business and for your team? Do you find the whole process a bit of an annoyance, perhaps? Remember, join in the conversation, guys, and feel free to leave your comments. And and you know, I'll take a look at them a bit later on. I'm going to give you an example now, guys. I don't know about you, but I've made some pretty good placements over the years for my clients in the past. But I've also interviewed and employed, you know, some recruiters too, and made some huge mistakes. I'm not going to give you any real names here. So, but let's assume that this chap is called Dave. There was a time when I hired Dave in my team. He had a bit of recruitment experience. I wasn't really looking for, you know, a seasoned recruiter. I wanted someone who could support me and the senior consultants, and really wanted to develop them into a kind of a rounded consultant. Dave was quite an extrovert, very sociable, and you would have been brought into him during an interview. Absolutely, that's for sure. And the rest of the team, well, we agreed unanimously that we were going to hire this guy, but I was wrong. I got it wrong, and it soon became apparent that Dave was all, you know, smoke and mirrors. He didn't really fit. He didn't really fit into the team. He never really listened. His first priority was seldom recruitment. So much so that he became a real annoyance. He became quite disruptive. I didn't take into account what I wanted to achieve longer term. I didn't assess him properly. And I didn't approach the process in the right manner. I really paid the heavy price. I kept him on for longer than I probably should have done. And because I wanted to give him a really good chance. But, you know, sadly it never worked out. But number one lesson learned very early on for me was that we should recruit for ourselves like we do for our clients. So how should recruiters kind of be hired then, I suppose? Like I said, you know, what we need to do, we need to apply the same methods to the hiring of your own talent to than you do with your clients. So if you don't, you're not only going to do your business a disservice, you're doing the clients that you work for a disservice too. Applicants need to prove their value too, you know, and many of the important claims a recruiter makes can be cross-checked. So, you know, if someone says they had loads of connections on LinkedIn, for example, then check it on LinkedIn. If someone says they have lots of niche connections in a specific sector or specific area, then ask them to show you those connections online. If they're less experienced recruiter, then give the applicants a real taste of what recruitment's like. You know, a lot of applicants enter the world of recruitment without a clear idea of what it's actually like and what it really entails. And this can cause problems down the line. You could, I don't know, set up an interview situation, for example, for them and see how much, you know, information they can get. You could simulate a phone call, for example, with a potential client, or get them to write a job ad and explain how they're promoted. I mean, this is a great way to find out how a candidate will perform in a given situation, whilst also showing them the nuts and bolts of recruiting. This way, candidates who haven't properly thought it through can pass on the role now, rather than wasting everyone's time 6 months down the line. So I suppose we've got to ask ourselves then, why is it so difficult to hire great recruiters? Great recruiter hires are notoriously hard to consistently source for a number of reasons. And I'll give you a few. They don't train for it. It's not like a traditional profession, or, you know, like a teacher, a doctor, or a lawyer, or anything like that. Recruiters come from all walks of life and all kinds of backgrounds, really. And while there are some kind of recognised kind of accreditations and qualifications, they're not widespread enough, I don't think, for us to really use them. It's different than hiring salespeople as well. Whilst selling is a part of the job, naturally, recruiters need to be able to see beyond a simple sale and understand the importance of developing kind of longer term relationships with themselves, between themselves and the clients and the candidates. And the best recruiters often I've found, fall into it. I mean, how many times have you spoken to a recruiter about this, and they said, "Oh, I just fell into recruitment." I know I did, unfortunately. Would you agree that a kind of hiring recruiters it's often potluck, I suppose? It's often, you often give them a shot at a role. There are so many reasons why we don't have to work on these loose, assumptions anymore. So why else is it difficult to hire good recruiters? Here's a controversial one for you. Some recruiters don't often know what they're talking about. They don't take the time to learn their niche. My advice to any recruiter would be to take the time to learn about what the hiring manager's like, what the hiring manager is looking for. Take the time to understand the technology, the culture of the business, the movers and the shakers within that particular sector. Here's another one for you as well. Some recruiters, unfortunately, they don't know how to close. Research and resourcing is only half the battle. Don't get me wrong, resourcing is an art, but if you can't close the candidate or the hiring manager on the candidate, for example, then you're probably in the wrong role. Some recruiters as well think they're probably, and unfortunately, worth more than they actually are. Good recruiters get paid really well. Some might argue differently, but they work, their absolute backsides off. I know they do. The good ones really do. Simply having 12-month experience and a degree, for example, doesn't necessarily justify a 10k salary increase, for example. I'll give you another example as well. Some recruiters are afraid to pick up the phone. They're afraid of the phone. In this day and age, it's really easy to hide from the phone behind kind of texts and emails and things like that. So don't be fooled. You aren't going to build any long-term relationships just by doing that. Another thing that I found as well, some recruiters don't listen. Again, listening to what the candidate wants. Listen to what the manager wants. Don't fit a round peg in a square hole. You're just going to kind of, frustrate people. Some recruiters as well have higher priorities than recruiting. Like I said earlier with Dave, if you leave bang on 5 o'clock, for example, at the end of the day and to go to the pub or, go to the gym or whatever, then guess what? The next guy sitting next to you, he's going to kick your butt into the next quarter. He really is. So what should we look for then when hiring these guys? There's a number of things we should consider when looking to grow a successful recruitment team or a recruitment hire. But what are the key indicators we should look for? Well, I think a willingness to learn is really, really key. Whilst you should want to hire a recruiter who is pretty sure of their abilities, the best ones tend to have a healthy combination of kind of confidence and a really willingness to learn. If you think about it, if they're not willing to learn, they're not going to get better at their jobs. They're not going to progress. Even an experienced recruiter should understand that they will need to, do their best to keep up with the latest technology within their sector, for example. And if a candidate comes off as kind of overly confident about their ability to recruit based on kind of prior experience, or if they're billing really well in their last role, then you might be better off kind of waiting until someone else comes along. I always like to hire someone who gets things done. What you need is a real go-getter, someone with integrity, someone who does what they say they're going to do. You can ask certain questions around this, about their kind of, their career trajectory, what they've accomplished, what are their biggest challenges, etc. Steady Eddies are really good, and I posted this, I think on my newsfeed last week on LinkedIn. Steady Eddies are good. If you focus purely on big billers and big billers alone, then you're going to miss some great opportunities. You really are. I think a steady biller is often better than an erratic kind of biller. And I'm not saying that all big billers are erratic. I'm just saying that, you know, steady eddies, you've got to consider them. Another thing that I think you need to consider is the obvious, I think, is strong sales skills. Not only do recruiters need to sell their clients, they need to sell their candidates, they need to sell the opportunities and be able to, you know, articulate why company X is, you know, an employer of choice, and why a particular opportunity is not just a great opportunity, but how it's the opportunity of a lifetime, for example. The ability to kind of cultivate and build relationships, I think, is really key. Anyone can, you know, pull a name out of a database and place a call, and it's another thing to genuinely kind of, you know, cultivate and build relationships with the candidates that we recruit. Perhaps knowing a little about what makes them tick, what their hobbies are, and engaging in a conversation will really help to cultivate an actual working relationship. By creating more open and friendly and communicative kind of an experience will increase your ability to kind of build that relationship. Hunter's mentality is absolutely vital as well. Now, there are so many ways to source for talent these days. There is an abundance of sites, of networks, of tools and platforms, all built in some fashion to make a recruiter's life kind of easier. But it's how each recruiter, I suppose, uses these tools that will make the difference. It all starts, I think, with the mentality of the individual. Great recruiters are big game hunters. They really are, and they have the mindset to hunt, and they're absolutely relentless when it comes to hunting until the hunt is over. If a recruiter's going to sit at a desk and kind of, you know, log into a job board and do keyword searches all day, then it's not the mentality that you want, really. Certainly not for a 360 recruiter. You want someone who is willing to cold call, who is willing to get on social media, who is willing to do Boolean searches and network, and in order to find the strongest kind of and most qualified individuals. Another thing I think I find as well is the best recruiters are real big picture thinkers. You know, simply focusing on simple kind of single searches each day is great in you know, standalone, but you know, having the ability to see how candidates can really fit into an organisation, the potential value they can bring, or even knowing when, you know, a superstar candidate can fit in, even if there's no immediate position available, is absolutely invaluable. Listening as well, I think, is really important. Has anyone ever kind of had the whole recruiter talk your ear off kind of presentation about how great they are, and you know how great, you know, how big billings they were, how big billings they had last quarter? It's quite annoying. It really gets my goat a little bit. Recruiters really need to listen first and talk second. So, what do the best recruiters do better? When it comes to hiring more experienced recruiters, my advice here would be to approach with a little bit more caution. They're on the market for a reason, and what you don't want is some kind of excess baggage. An experienced recruiter knows every trick in the book. You know, they have an insider's view of an insider's knowledge of what a strong candidate should look like and what a strong candidate should really feel like, and they're more aware of how watertight a recruitment process should be conducted. In other words, to recruit, I think, a top recruiter, you really need to bring your A game, and you really need to know your field inside out. But I suppose what is it that makes them great? What one thing, I'll put it to you guys as well, and feel free to kind of comment as well. What one thing do you think sets great recruiters apart? Feel free to post your comments. I'd love to hear what you think and love to hear what you say. And we'll have a Q&A session at the end as well. Whilst we're on the subject, whilst many recruiters are naturally kind of outgoing and social and confident, the best I find are often those who have a really good blend of extrovert and introvert, falling in the middle of the spectrum, if you like. When hiring for your team, focusing purely on the extroverts might work in your favour to begin with, but it could get your team, it could get some backs up, you know, it could get a little bit overbearing for your team. It could get a little bit intimidating maybe at times, or just plain annoying, a bit like Dave. People who fall in the middle of the spectrum have enough self-confidence to tackle a client pitch. They have enough, I suppose, humility to calm down situations, to ask questions, consultative questions, and to listen to clients rather than controlling the entire conversation. I think a key attribute as well is persistence. Now, this is probably a suggestion for you. Instead of looking for an extrovert, why not look for persistence and resilience instead, and having that as your #1 attribute. Hearing no to a recruiter, sometimes quite rudely, is sometimes, every recruiter needs to be ready for it. Every recruiter is going to get that daily, and the best recruiters are the ones who don't take rejection personally. But how do you assess that in an interview, I suppose? Well, you could ask about past rejections, about past failures, or about times when they were successful from, I suppose, not giving up. Alternatively, you could ask them about a deal that they lost and they could have closed if they had have been a bit more persistent in chasing that down. These questions, they're really effective because they tell you something about a person's resilience, whilst also asking your candidate to drop the usual canned, pre-rehearsed, well-rehearsed kind of responses. So what are we doing wrong? I think the first thing I've noticed over the years is hiring energetic recruiters, or indeed hiring low energy recruiters. If they're low energy recruiters or low energy in the interview process, then how do you think they're going to be after 6 to 12 months? Do you really want to have to, put a rocket up their backside? They're going to really need to want it. They're going to have that fire in their belly. Making compromises when we take someone on is I think a big mistake, and I think something that we need to be careful with and look at. If you settle for second best, they're always going to be second best. And what you're doing here is just hiring to fill a desk or to fill a hole. It's far, far better, I think, to keep it empty until the best people come along. What I've found as well in the past, and after speaking to many, many recruiters over the years as well, and mistakes that they've made, is not checking references properly. Or even if you do check them, ensure that you mean it. It's not part of the whole assessment, but not just it's part of the assessment, should I say, and not just a compliance process. This is probably the biggest mistake recruiters make is selling too much to the candidate. Certainly during the selection, the interview process. The prospective recruiter, for example, is told what a fabulous company it is to work for. How they have an open door policy, staff turnover's non-existent. Some of this might be true. However, I reckon it could dramatically increase our chances of, recruiting the right people and the right recruiters, and indeed retaining them as well, if we were to just be a bit more truthful during the interview process. For a start, just be honest. Tell them, or tell the people realistically how hard it's going to be for them for the first 12 months. What hours they will actually need to work during the first 12 months. If the culture in the business is, no one leaves before 8 o'clock, for example, at night, then just tell them. Likewise, if there's going to be a manager who's a bit of a pain in the backside and makes people's lives hell, then warn them. Be honest. Another one, you know, if your boss is going to be coming in at 10 a.m. Or if you're the boss, and if you come in at 10 a.m. and if you leave at 4 p.m., then tell them why. Tell them that's what's going to happen, and tell them why. So moving on, what strategies should we use then? What strategies should we use? I think employer branding is really key part of your strategy. I think you should bear in mind that every recruitment business owner, they're going to think that their business is the best in the market. You know, they really are. So recruiters have heard the same story, and they said that they've heard the same spiel from every agency. So I would always keep in mind what makes you and your business really stand out from the crowd. Secondly, you need to move quickly during the recruitment process. The top recruiters are sought after. They really are, especially in such a buoyant market. Any quality recruiter that drops onto the market, they're going to have loads of kind of options on the go. So kind of 4 or 5 stages over a 6-week kind of period just isn't going to work, and you can lose the candidate to someone else. Thirdly, what I think is quite important as well is really build relationships with the rec to recs. This is going to really help them talk naturally about your business and to the recruitment community with real confidence. Fourthly, I think engage the recruiter on a personal level. Yes, I know it's important to find out about their billing history and kind of their client base, but you can't afford to kind of spend the whole interview grilling about the candidate and historical KPIs and performance levels and things like that. It's really important to get to know them, and what comes with that as well is offering full transparency. I think that's really important. Is your agency really at the forefront of recruitment innovation? Is the role the same job, different scenery? Be honest and be open about the agency and the role and the responsibilities, the salary, the benefits, the perks. Just be transparent. Remember, recruiters they're trained to spot lies. So, and lastly, I think sell your story, not just the financial statements. Recruiters are expected to, they expect a personal touch. They want to believe in you and your ability to help them kind of succeed. So, as a parting gift, we're coming to the end now, guys. At the top of the session, I promised you some real killer questions. So here we go. Here's some top 4 killer questions you should use when hiring great recruiters. Number 1, what do you want? Number 2, why do you want it? Number 3, if you could have any job, what would it be? If you could have any job in the world, what would it be? And number 4, what are your income goals now and in 5 years' time? So I'll go through them again. Number 1, what do you want? Why do you want it? If you could have any job you could in the world, what would it be? And what are your income goals over the next 5 years' time? So there you have it, guys. Thanks for joining me this evening. I know I've certainly enjoyed it. I hope you have too. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, you can just get in touch with me via LinkedIn or email me directly. Cheerio. Have a good evening.